Your breath is the only function of your autonomic nervous system that you can consciously control. Your heart beats without your permission. Your digestion proceeds without your involvement. Your blood pressure rises and falls on its own. But the breath sits in a rare and special place. It runs automatically when you ignore it, and yet the moment you turn your attention toward it, you can take the controls. That single fact is the entire foundation of Pranayama, the Vedic science of breath. In the next 22 minutes, I will teach you 5 core techniques, exactly when to use each one, the full step-by-step method for all of them, and the science of why they work. By the end, you will hold a complete breath toolkit for energy, for calm, for focus, and for sleep. Let us begin with the word itself. Pranayama is 2 words joined together. Prana is the life force, the vital energy that animates all living things, carried into the body on the breath. Ayama means extension, expansion, and regulation. So pranayama is the conscious regulation and extension of the life force through the breath. It is far more than breathing exercises. It is the deliberate management of the energy that runs your body and your mind. The classical text on this practice, the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, states the principle very plainly. When the breath wanders, the mind is unsteady. When the breath is still, the mind is still, and the yogi attains stillness. The breath and the mind are 2 ends of a single thread. Pull on one, and the other follows. In the eightfold path laid out by the sage Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras, pranayama is the 4th limb. The first 2 limbs concern ethics and conduct. The third, asana, prepares the body and the posture. And then comes the 4th limb, pranayama, which forms the great bridge between the outer practices and the inner ones. The 3 limbs that follow it, the turning inward of the senses, concentration, and meditation, all depend on a steady breath to be possible at all. This is why the tradition treats the breath as the gateway. You cannot still the mind by force, but you can still the breath, and the mind will follow it inward. Patanjali defines the practice as the breaking of the natural, unconscious flow of inhalation and exhalation, so that the breath can be lengthened, refined, and made smooth. Now let me give you the physiology, because this is where the ancient intuition and modern science meet with remarkable precision. The thing the rishis felt and described in the language of energy, science now describes in the language of the nervous system. Your autonomic nervous system has 2 branches. The sympathetic branch is the accelerator, the fight or flight response, the state of alertness, stress, and action. The parasympathetic branch is the brake, the rest and digest response, the state of calm, repair, and recovery. Most modern people live with the accelerator pressed down for far too many hours of the day. The breath is your direct access to the brake. The key to that access is a single nerve, the vagus nerve, which is the main highway of the parasympathetic nervous system. It runs from the brainstem down through the throat and chest into the heart, the lungs, and the gut. Here is the crucial link. A slow, long exhalation stimulates the vagus nerve, and stimulating the vagus nerve slows the heart and signals the whole body to relax. A rapid, forceful breath does the opposite, activating the sympathetic, fight or flight branch and raising your alertness and energy. So every time you choose how to breathe, you are choosing which nervous system state you enter. You are reaching past the conscious mind and placing your hand directly on the dial of your own physiology. No pill gives you that switch as quickly or as cleanly as the breath does. There is more. Breathing through the nose, rather than the mouth, produces a gas called nitric oxide in the sinuses. Nitric oxide widens the blood vessels and improves the uptake of oxygen in the lungs, so nasal breathing actually delivers more oxygen to your blood than mouth breathing does. It also has a mild protective quality, helping to defend the airway. The nose, meanwhile, filters dust and particles, warms cold air, and humidifies dry air before it ever reaches the delicate tissue of the lungs, which is work the mouth simply cannot do. This is why the tradition insists, almost without exception, that pranayama is breath through the nose. And there is the nasal cycle, a natural rhythm in which the body subtly favors one nostril and then the other over the course of the day, switching every few hours. The yogis observed and mapped this many centuries before any instrument could measure it. They called the cooling, lunar receptive channel that flows on the left side Ida, and the warming solar active channel that flows on the right side, Pingala. When you breathe more through the left, you tend toward calm and rest. When you breathe more through the right, you tend toward alertness and activity. Alternate nostril breathing, which you will learn in a moment, is the practice of consciously balancing these two channels, so that neither calm nor activity dominates, and the mind settles into a clear and even center. Before we come to the techniques, learn the foundation that sits underneath all of them. 3 rules. First, breathe through the nose, for all the reasons we just covered: the nitric oxide, the filtering, the warming. Second, breathe from the belly, not the chest. On the inhale, the belly should gently expand outward as the diaphragm drops and the lungs fill from the bottom. On the exhale, the belly softens back in. This is how a sleeping infant breathes, and it is how you were built to breathe. It engages the diaphragm fully and draws air into the deep, rich lower lobes of the lungs. Third, make the exhale longer than the inhale, because the long exhale is what stimulates the vagus nerve. Lengthening it tilts the entire system gently toward calm. Nose, belly, long exhale. Build every technique on these 3, and sit with the spine tall and the shoulders soft for all of them. Technique 1. Nadi Shodhana, alternate nostril breathing, the balancing breath. The name itself means the cleansing of the channels, the purification of the subtle pathways through which prana flows. This is the great equalizer, and it is where every practice should begin. Here is the full method. Sit comfortably with your spine tall. Rest your left hand on your knee. Bring your right hand toward your face and let your index and middle fingers fold down softly so that you will use the thumb for the right nostril and the ring finger for the left. Begin by closing the right nostril with your thumb and inhale slowly through the left nostril for a count of 4. Now close the left nostril gently with your ring finger, so both nostrils are held closed, and hold the breath for a count of 4. Release the thumb and exhale through the right nostril for a count of 4. Then, without switching, inhale through that same right nostril for 4. Close the right with the thumb again, hold for 4, then release the ring finger and exhale through the left for 4. That complete cycle, up the left and down the right, then up the right and down the left, is 1 round. Do 5 rounds, smooth and unhurried. As you do this, you are balancing Ida and Pingala, the lunar and solar channels, bringing the cooling and the warming currents into equilibrium. Use Nadi Shodhana anytime you feel scattered or pulled in many directions, before you meditate, or before any work that asks for a clear and settled head. It does not stimulate, and it does not sedate. It centers. Technique 2. Ujjayi, the victorious breath, often called the ocean breath. The name comes from the root that means to conquer or to be victorious, because this breath builds heat and an unshakable internal focus. Here is the method. Breathe in and out through the nose only, but introduce a gentle constriction at the back of the throat, as if you were very softly fogging a mirror, except with the mouth closed. Another way to find it is to whisper the sound of the letter H with your mouth open, feel where the throat narrows, and then keep that same gentle narrowing while you close the mouth and breathe through the nose. That slight constriction makes the breath audible, a soft, steady, oceanic sound, like distant waves, rising on the inhale and falling on the exhale. Keep the breath long, slow, and even, the inhale and the exhale matched in length, smooth from beginning to end with no catch or jerk. The sound becomes your anchor. As long as you can hear that steady ocean, you know your breath is smooth and your mind is gathered. The moment the sound breaks up or disappears, you know your attention has wandered, and the breath gently calls it back. There is also a quiet physical benefit. The slight resistance at the throat slows the breath naturally and lengthens the exhale, which once again gently engages the calming branch of the nervous system, even as the practice builds focus and warmth. Use Ujjayi during movement and during yoga postures, where it holds your focus, regulates the pace of your flow, and builds a warming internal fire that prepares the body and steadies the attention. You can also sit and practice it on its own for a few minutes as a simple and grounding focus practice. It is the breath that turns physical movement into moving meditation. Technique 3. Bhramari, the humming bee breath. Bhramari takes its name from the Sanskrit word for the black bee, because the sound you make is the gentle hum of a bee. This is one of the fastest ways to calm an agitated mind that exists in the entire tradition, and the reason is the vibration. Here is the method. Sit comfortably and close your eyes. Bring your thumbs up to gently close the flaps of your ears and rest your remaining fingers lightly across your forehead and face the way you might cradle your own head. Take a slow inhale through the nose. Then, as you exhale, keep the mouth closed and make a steady, smooth humming sound, low and even, like a bee, letting the hum carry all the way to the end of the breath. Feel the vibration fill your skull. That is the active ingredient. The hum sends a gentle vibration through the inner ear and the bones of the face, and this vibration stimulates the vagus nerve directly, switching on the parasympathetic, calming response within moments. Do 5 to 10 of these humming breaths. Use Bhramari for acute anxiety when worry is racing and you need relief quickly. Use it before sleep to quiet a busy mind. It can soften a spinning head in under a minute, and you can do it almost anywhere. Technique 4. Kapalabhati, the skull shining breath, the great energizer. The name means shining skull, because the practice is set to clear and brighten the mind and the space behind the forehead. This one is different from the others, because here we deliberately use a rapid active breath to energize rather than to calm. Here is the method, and listen closely because the pattern is the reverse of what you might expect. In Kapalabhati, the inhale is passive and the exhale is active. You will take a sharp, forceful contraction of the lower belly, snapping the navel back toward the spine, which pushes the air out of the nose in a quick, sharp burst. Then you simply release the belly, and the inhale happens on its own, passively, as the lungs refill. So it is a series of sharp exhales through the nose, each one a pump of the lower abdomen, with the inhales taking care of themselves in between. Begin slowly, about 1 pump per second, for 20 rounds, and then stop and rest, letting the breath return completely to normal as you sit in the bright, clear stillness that follows. That stillness afterward is part of the practice. Use Kapalabhati in the morning, in place of a cup of coffee, to burn off the fog of sleep and wake up the mind and the body. Now, a serious word of caution, because this is the one powerful technique that is not for everyone. Skip Kapalabhati entirely if you are pregnant. Skip it if you have high blood pressure, heart conditions, hernia, or are prone to nosebleeds. And never practice it on a full stomach. If at any point you feel dizzy or lightheaded, stop at once and return to normal breathing. Respect this technique and it will serve you well. Technique 5. The 4-7-8 breath, the relaxing breath, sometimes called the natural tranquilizer for the nervous system. This is your most reliable tool for falling asleep and for diffusing a sudden surge of stress, and the whole power of it lies in that very long exhale, which floods the vagus nerve with the signal to relax. Here is the method. Empty your lungs gently first. Then inhale quietly through the nose for a count of 4. Hold the breath for a count of 7. Then exhale completely through the mouth for a count of 8, with a soft audible whoosh, the lips slightly pursed. That is 1 round. Do 4 rounds, no more than that when you are beginning. Notice the shape of it. The exhale, at a count of 8, is twice as long as the inhale at a count of 4, and that long, slow release is what carries you down into calm. Use the 4-7-8 breath lying in bed to fall asleep, and many people never make it past the 4th round before drifting off. Use it in the moment a craving hits, or a wave of anger rises, or anxiety floods in to interrupt the reaction and reset the nervous system before you act. It is a tranquilizer you carry with you everywhere, that costs nothing and never runs out. Now let me show you how to weave these into a daily practice, because a technique you know but never use changes nothing. Set aside 5 to 10 minutes, ideally in the morning, after your movement and before your meditation, when the body is awake and the mind is fresh. Always begin the same way, with 3 rounds of Nadi Shodhana to balance the channels and gather yourself. Then add a single technique chosen for what the day in front of you actually needs. If you need energy and clarity, add a round of Kapalabhati observing all its cautions. If you need to settle and soften, add the 4-7-8 breath instead. If you are facing anxiety, reach for Bhramari, and always finish the same way. Let the breath return entirely to its natural rhythm, stop controlling it, and simply sit in the stillness that the practice has created. This is the most important instruction in the whole session. The techniques are not the goal, they are the means. The goal is that quiet, spacious stillness that opens up once the breath has done its work and the mind has grown calm enough to rest. That stillness is the doorway into meditation, and it is the entire point of the practice. This is exactly the role Patanjali gave to the fourth limb. Pranayama steadies and refines the breath so completely that the mind, no longer dragged about by a restless, ragged breath, can turn inward and rest in its own nature. The breath is the bridge, and the stillness on the far side of that bridge is where meditation truly begins. Let me also say a word about consistency, because it matters more than ambition. A few minutes of these practices done every single day, without fail, will change you far more deeply than a long heroic session done once and then forgotten. Begin with the smallest version you will actually keep. 3 rounds of Nadi Shodhana and a single minute of stillness is a complete and worthy practice. Hold that much every day for 48 days, the traditional Vedic window for installing a new pattern, and only then begin to add. The breath rewards the patient and the regular far more than the intense. A final and serious word on safety, because the breath is powerful precisely because it is so direct. Never strain. Pranayama should feel smooth, steady, and comfortable at every moment, never forced, never gasping, never gripped. If you ever feel dizzy, lightheaded, or anxious, simply let go of the technique and return to easy, normal breathing until you feel settled again. Build your duration slowly, over weeks and months, not in a single ambitious morning. Add counts and rounds gradually, the way you would add weights in any other training. The breath is a powerful medicine, and like any medicine, the dose and the patience matter. Begin gently, practice consistently, and let it deepen on its own. Inside the 10x Vedic app, the breathing and meditation pillar gives you an animated breath pacer for every technique I have taught you today. It guides your inhale, your hold, and your exhale with a calm visual cue you simply follow with your breath, along with an optional voice to lead you, so you never have to count or watch a clock. Open it tomorrow morning and begin with 3 slow rounds of Nadi Shodhana and let the practice unfold from there. The mind will follow the breath, as it always has, and as it always will. Namaste.